companies. And there is this incredible amount of lubricant in the dry powder that's sitting on the side of the of the market right now that all these venture funds raised in the last 2 years that is going to lubricate all these AI companies into every vertical and every market. So every company's wrapped up in an AI cloak, like a magic invisibility cloak. Every AI company's got an AI hat and a badge and a tattoo now, or every company's being rewritten as an AI company. And the money wants to find its way into AI, and it wants to rewrite every industry with AI. So I think similar to what we saw with mobile and the social web, going back 10 or 15 years, we're seeing kind of this AI wrapper and this AI technology enabler rewrite the possibility of every vertical. And the VCs have capital, more capital than they had 15 years ago or 10 years ago, or even 7 years ago. So there is this counter narrative, which may be that the game goes on, the band continues to march on. The current crop dies out, but there's immediately a new crop waiting right behind it. Or what happens is the herd dies and everyone runs to the back of the herd and gets recapitalized. Because I can tell you, every startup I know that's not going well, everyone's talking about leaving to go do an AI company, and the venture firms are ready to write money. Yeah.
I think you're right about that. I think the question is the actual person making the check. Will they be more or less likely? And at least what history would tell you is that we've hired an entire generation of people that, and this is clear, do not map to the people in our industry that have actually generated returns. So you're right. They may take this money and misallocate it into these companies that are just, rebranding themselves. But that just goes and further proves that there is a type of person that hasn't been recruited into these venture firms yet that was the first generation that made all the money.
I think it's always been the case that there is some difference between the background of the VCs and the backgrounds of the founders. I mean, you guys mentioned Gurley and Moritz. Like we said, Moritz was a journalist who had written a book about Apple. He wasn't technical per se. And Gurley was a investment analyst on Wall Street before he then made the transition into VC. And as we both know, they're like legendary VCs. I think what you want to see in a VC, I think the background matters a little bit less than, like how curious are they? How good are they about learning a new area? How good are they at being like a heat-seeking missile? I mean, basically just like zeroing in on like what is the hot space and specifically what is the best company within that space, and somehow figuring that out. Being able to assess a founder, that's like a very subjective thing. So I think there's lots of qualifications that you want to see in a VC. Now, at the same time, I do think that if AI is the next wave and the next sort of platform opportunity, as we all think it is, I do think that places more of an emphasis on technical skills. And I was literally just having this conversation at Craft that, maybe the next hire we should make at Craft should be someone who's really deep technically, so they can, help go deeper on technical due diligence of AI companies.
They've never made money.
What's that?
They've never made money in the history of our business.
Who?
Those people. That archetype of hire has never done it on behalf of LPs or GPs.
In biotech and life sciences, they have. Usually the best investors, usually PhDs.
He's saying a technical hire who worked in the trenches at a company is not as fit.
No, has not in the past.
Has not in the past gotten DPI, whereas somebody who is
more commercial,
able to analyze a business, commercial,
no, the ideal person
is going to be able to get returns.
Right. So look, I think, the ideal person would be someone who's fundamentally a great investor, but also has some technical background and some technical chops. We also have a team approach at Craft. So if you have someone who's very technical, they can just diligence the technical aspects of the deal. Somebody else can be responsible for, making an assessment of the founders.
How we've solved this is we have a group of third-party individuals that we work with, that we keep on retainer, that we compensate. And whenever we need to do deep technical diligence, we partner with them to do that work with us. And what it allows us to do is get the best of their technical thinking without also putting them in a position of trying to adjudicate whether this company is good or not. What I'm trying to understand is, what is this technical edge, and can I understand the boundaries of that? But I still keep the investment decision to myself and my partners, because otherwise the difficulty is, in my experience, deeply, deeply technical people are extremely good at diligence, but generally are poor at making investment decisions because there's a part of their brain that flips on, which is like, I could do it better, or I could do it this way, or I could do it that way. And I think like that anchoring bias can be very dangerous. And you almost want to be a little dumbed down from that depth of knowledge, because you either find everything that is like not worth doing, and then you can miss a market, or you miss the thing that is good enough because you're like, oh, well, I would have done X, Y, and Z in a different way. So we kind of like use them, but we keep them at arm's length so that they never feel the pressure of having to actually decide on our behalf how the money should be spent.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting.
Yeah, the number one thing we're doing at this early stage is training our founders. I know this sounds crazy, on accounting best practices and pricing best practices. And we literally have founders who have never made a plan. I'm talking about at the seed stage, who don't know accounting. And so we are running 4 seed stage startups, and I'm kicking myself that we didn't do it 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but better late than never, on how to just maintain their books and understand operations and the operational lack of discipline in the market. I'm seeing Series A and Series B companies that literally don't understand their own accounting. And so when we start talking to their accountants, there is a huge gap between what the accountants think of this business and what the founders think of these businesses. And founders think they have more revenue than they have or less revenue. They really don't even know how to calculate their runway in an honest way. And so there is, back to your point, Chamath, about on the venture side of the business, a lot of product focus, a lot of operational focus. There's not enough focus on just the bottom line.
The reason that happened is what Friedberg said before, which is like somebody would build something. There was a little bit of momentum, and you'd have to go and present these bona fides to these entrepreneurs to get into the deal. And so what venture firms thought was the right bona fide to present is, oh, I built XYZ product at this other company.
Right.
And they thought that that edge could get you into a deal. Maybe, but it could turn out that that was the wrong company to be in the first place. And so you just missed an entire generation of value creation because it happened sort of off-piste.
Off the trail. Yeah. You really do need to understand fundamentally, because we're talking about public markets here, the Facebook analogy, what is the ultimate earnings? What is the ultimate
buyer?
cash that is going to get thrown off this business? And that's what the whole industry needs to, I think, pivot to, and just that needs to be the operating principle.
Do you guys know how much money Facebook, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft raised combined total before they went public?
It's very small. I mean, Google is minuscule.
Less than $250 million.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
All
the inefficiency is extraordinary. And then on top of this inefficiency, I don't know if you're seeing this.
They were all profitable when they went public.
On top of all this inefficiency is a dependence on venture debt. I don't know if you're seeing this, Sachs, but the amount of focus on adding debt to unprofitable companies over the last 5 years has been just extraordinary. I don't